Welcome to Gossip About Gossip, powered by Hedera Hashgraph. In each episode, we'll cut through the hype of blockchain promises and explore real-world examples of organizations creating the next generation of decentralized applications, which will bring trust back to the internet for us all.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Gossip About Gossip, the podcast where we talk about real-world applications of distributed ledger technology. My name is Zenobia Godschalk, and I'm the SVP of Communications here at Swirls Labs, helping to drive the Hedera ecosystem. Today, I am joined by Jim Rao, who is the founder and CEO of Capterrain. Hi, Jim. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thanks.
So Capterrain is going to be a new name to our community. Can you share a little bit about what you all do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Capterrain is a new company we started about 18 months ago. The vision was pretty simple, and that was to be the world's leading transparent, compliant environmental assets exchange. So that would be more than just carbon. So carbon, biodiversity credits, water rights, et cetera, to include a lot of the green products that are out there.
And so an asset exchange, exactly what does that mean, right? I think a lot of folks sort of understand there's this whole ESG ecosystem, but they haven't really drilled into, how does it work? How are you pairing buyers and sellers? What kinds of things are those people buying and selling?
That question is very good, and it's actually a two-part question. One is actually what's the definition of exchange, because most people actually have the wrong definition of exchange. And an exchange is really a location that you can actually conduct the buying and selling of a transaction, be it a security, an asset, commodity, et cetera. So it's where you actually can buy and sell, whereas most exchanges that have the name exchange, particularly in the carbon exchange world, are really more like postings, more like a Craigslist. So that's one thing. So, but our exchange is actually designed to be, we're obviously US based, so we've had a vision of actually making it CFTC compliant, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, under the clear direction from me that this is going to be a regulated commodity. So we operate 6 other commodities, not under the Capterrain label, but we are a regulated entity by the SEC, CFTC, and others already. So for us, operating a environmental assets exchange was a natural step out because it's something we already know and do in other aspects. We don't do it in the other categories. We didn't do it necessarily in environmental assets, but to me, it's another asset class, and you can apply those same techniques from due diligence and compliance and everything else into the environmental asset space. So when you say exchange, that's where we really mean we want to be able to conduct all of those asset sales, commodity sales in one organization and actually do the connecting of the buying and the selling. And that's what's important. So if you really understand the methodologies of exchanges, you'll see we're really a spot exchange at the beginning. And then as we grow and in the US, you need to be a futures exchange, you actually have to have a different set of regulatory authority. So hopefully that explains it.
All right. And so, I'm sure that has taken quite a while, right? I think a theme that we have heard is that, folks are looking at sort of existing frameworks and regimes to build these products on top of, but obviously there's a lot of back end work for that to happen.
Very much so. And that old adage, it takes twice as long, twice as expensive is very appropriate here as well. So being one of the check writers, I can tell you it's always more expensive than you think, but it's been well worth it. We actually had the advantage of having a vision and seeing a problem. And the problem was the plumbing of I'll get more granular here, the actual carbon market. And the carbon market is a disaster when you actually look at it from a buying and selling. If you come from my background, I've been securities licensed since 1987. So I look at things very differently than what kind of historical, carbon credit business and participants. I look at it as, why is this so hard to get? Where's the provenance? Where's the due diligence? Where's the transparency? Where's the process? Where are all those things? And if you looked at kind of how this business went, it was a cottage business being the carbon business, and it just kind of grew through NGO mandates, et cetera. But as it's now starting to become, regulatory, it's taken on a different aspect, and it's going to be much more Wall Street in its structure and processes going forward. And thus, that's why one of the interests for us is that we've kind of gone from a cottage industry that was kind of the Wild West to something that's more professional, because these are big dollars, right? Somebody buys $100 million worth of credits, you want to know where that $100 million is going to. So we're really trying to provide, and we built the plumbing. And the benefit we had is we knew what we needed to do, and we didn't have incumbent problems. Like, we didn't have to fix a system. We could build a clean system from the beginning. And that's what we did with Capterrain.
And I think you've seen a lot of people say, okay, well, on the buyer side, that's pretty clear. There's a lot of folks who have made environmental commitments. There's a lot of people who want to buy these credits. How have you started to sort of, more industrialize this or make this more standard on the seller side? I think that, to your point, has been a little bit more of the Wild West previously.
Yeah. So we've actually, we look at the buyer as the CFO of corporations. So that's who we target that's who our client is that's buying. Now, on the selling side, what we've done that's been different than many of the other groups in the carbon credit, I'm going to just keep it to carbon credits here for a minute, is that most of them have come from the nature-based world, reforestation, forestration projects, whatever that happened to be. So something that grows. We're based in Houston. Many of our team members are oil and gas or energy or power or investment bankers or whatever it happened to be in a number of those areas, be it petrochemicals, mining, oil and gas, power. So what we've done is actually focused more of our efforts on those kind of, I call them the four uglies, right? And if you look at the four uglies, we're right here in, River City, as I always like to say, where it all happens. So that's been our focus, is to focus on those harsh industries. And in that, the beauty of that, if there can be a beauty, the beauty of that is actually all of those are very mathematical. They're very scientific based. So when we actually can issue a credit, we stand with really good scientific backgrounds, methodologies that can be proven. Whereas on the nature-based side, there's the range of potential problems is very great. But when you're doing something in the hydrocarbon base or anything, when it's a hard science, you have a much narrower range, which should give comfort to buyers, the people that are actually looking to do offsets and other things.
Right. And so, you mentioned that you have built other exchanges and you're running other exchanges. Why did you need DLT as part of the workflow for this exchange?
Well, I believe every exchange should have some form or fashion, either DLT, blockchain, in its process to give comfort and provenance. The other thing for me is that on some of our other activities, on our private placements exchange, for example, it helps me when I get examinations and audits by the regulators, be it FINRA or the SEC. I can go and it's much easier having that process in place, and that just helps. Now, and then on the carbon credit side, it's even more important because there's so many different factors that go into capturing everything that's gone. I mean, what's the history of those credits is a lot different than what you would do in a securities offering, right? In a security offer, it's a little bit more static. You know what's going on, and for nature-based, for example, all the different things that go into a credit can be captured. And if you're capturing it on a DLT, it gives the buyer comfort that one is that there's a provenance, it's been tracked, they can audit it, they can do all the kinds of things. It's a sense of comfort. It's a transparency issue, and I think it's even more important in the environmental asset side, carbon credits, et cetera, than it is on the security side.
Absolutely. So, there has been a lot of discussion about, can DLTs be environmentally friendly? I think we've moved a little bit beyond that. But how did you then go about your process of deciding, okay, which DLT, which ledger do I want to partner with as I build out this platform?
Well, one, clearly that had a low impact, being proof of stake, proof of work. We know all that. I've actually been on the BTC mining side, and I know what amount of power that takes. And clearly, that's not an option. So I was lucky in the sense that I had actually met many of the Hedera team 4 or 5 years ago, actually up in North Texas, in the Dallas area. And then obviously I've got friends that have been associated with the organization. And then when I learned what the goals and aspects and really the plan for ESG with Hedera was, to me, that was a win-win. There was no question about it. There was, do you go with the best, or do you try to duct tape something with number 2 and 3? I'd rather just go with the leader in the sector.
Yeah. And so can you talk a little bit, I know you're not the person sort of behind the scenes coding the platform, but what has your experience been like with Hedera so far?
Well, just to speak a little bit about coding, I couldn't code my way out of a wet paper bag, but yes, I am definitely not the person to do that. There's a team of much younger and smarter people doing that. But the experience for me has been fantastic, and we've had good interaction with the groups everywhere, from the Swiss team to the governing council to HBAR, et cetera. So for me, we've had a lot of good interaction. We've had a fantastic, support when it came to integrating our dream and aspects, and then connecting other ecosystem members as well. So for me, it's been fantastic. If there was one, negative, it's just there's a lot of good things going on, and when you have an organization like Hedera and HBAR, just promoting and marketing would be something that it's not bad. It's just something that could absolutely be exploited, and I know they're getting to it, and I encourage every aspect of that.
Yeah. And I think, there has been a concerted effort to just really make sure that the projects that, each of the different organizations are promoting and talking about are sort of where you are today, right? Kind of ready for prime time.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. When you have a good product, you should be, waving the flag. And I would, encourage the team to wave the flag more, because it is a good product, and it's a good ecosystem. There's good members, there's good people, and they're all rowing in the right direction. So that's the nice thing.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Swiss team. I know a lot of folks have not had direct interaction with the Hashgraph Association, which is based out of Switzerland. Can you maybe share a little bit more about, what has the process been like with them? What has it been like working with them? How have you engaged with them, and what kind of support have they been able to provide?
Well, for me, it was just understanding. So one, I had personal relationships with some of them, even outside of the Hedera side, before I really got into that. So I had an advantage in the sense, when you have a personal relationship, it was fantastic. So we got very good interaction. The filtering on the front side was actually pretty quick and efficient. For us, we were at a disadvantage because we didn't know all that could be done. So there was a little clunkiness there. I'll be first to admit it, that when you're trying to go into something like this and using a protocol or a DLT, you're not quite sure what to ask. So for us, we being the Capterrain team, made a fair number of mistakes as well. So just articulating what our vision was it wasn't bad, but knowing what I know now, if I could redo it, we'd have probably saved ourselves a few weeks and been a little bit more fluid. But beyond that, it was fantastic working with, like I said, the subject matter experts on the team that actually, that are more focused on ESG have been good. The grant process, I think, like any process, is in process as a process to get better. And I know that for us, it's gotten better every day. So we've had a good experience for the most part. And I would, if there was anybody to blame on anything slow, it'd be right here, right? So I'll take responsibility for anything that got slowed down.
Well, so maybe we can turn that into a lessons learned for other folks who are going through that application process. Are there things that, hey, if you're ready day one with X, Y, and Z, that will definitely help speed up the process because you're going to be asked for this as part of, for example, the association's due diligence process?
Exactly. And that's probably a quid pro quo, in the sense of it's probably as much for the Hedera side in all aspects to actually maybe have even a questionnaires and filtering processes that ask some questions that really get to your vision of what you're trying to do. I think that would have been helpful, but we ourselves, we're still trying to figure out the where we wanted to end up. So it was a little bit of a give and take there. So on the front side, anything I always say to my kids, prior planning prevents piss poor performance. And those 6 Ps are the same thing. Everything in life can be boiled down to that. So if we were a little bit more prepared, we would have done a better job of articulating what we wanted and what our vision was.
And, as you look out, you now have been on this journey for a little while, as you look out 6 or 12 months, what do you see in terms of the future here? Is it, focused on this market? Do you plan to expand the DLT capabilities to any of the other exchanges?
That's a two-part question. So if I'm looking at the general activity, the activity for us is about ready to hit, fifth gear overdrive, in the sense of we're about ready to, we've been in the whole building, and we've started revenue, and we're literally at that apex of the hockey stick going up. Our pipeline is 10 figures in size. So we've done a good job of building out that. And, when you're building a pipeline and you're building you've got these little incremental battles you do. You don't just get it all in one day and then turn it on and then you have a pipeline. It doesn't work that way. You're constantly you're winning by inches at times. And so we've now got the platform. Our first phase is we're conducting business, and we're taking off pretty rapidly in there. To your second part of the question, how are we going to involve or potentially involve DLT into our other platforms? So we actually are looking at, we actually have 4 basic platforms. So we have the private placements platform, we have the Capterrain platform, we have a commodities platform in the US that we're about ready to launch, and then we're in the process of a digital assets exchange as well. So for me, we're trying to actually amalgamate and do a best practices, best technology to actually use Hedera in all 4 of those aspects. So we're actually not looking at slowing down, but accelerating it, not only from a general business, but actually an underlying technology in areas beyond the ESG side.
Fantastic. Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining us today. Anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap up?
Nothing out of the ordinary, but no, thank you very much for your time. This was enjoyable. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And we hope you'll come back and keep us posted on your progress. Thanks so much, Jim.
Without doubt. Thank you.